AskReddit by limits woohoo. Realistically, what's stopping us from world peace? We'd all have to agree on what that means first. Absolutely. I'm not saying there aren't politicians arguing these things in bad faith, because there absolutely are. Still, almost everyone I talk to likes the concept of world peace, but many times, they think, the people on the other side should give up all of their claims on X. Naturally, our side is the most reasonable. Not enough Miss America contestants pursuing their goals. I wonder if Miss South Carolina made any progress on distributing maps to the kids of America, Iraq, and places like, such as IDK. It's easy to say everyone is so selfish and has no empathy, and this is true to a degree. But the world is a very complex system. There will never be a solution where everyone can get what they want. And very likely some people getting what they want will mean others being deprived of what they want or need. Humans will always prioritize the needs of themselves and their group, whether that's their family, race, religion, etc. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It just doesn't work on such a large scale. At the scale human societies have grown to, it is impossible to avoid conflict. That being said, a lot of conflicts could be avoided if we started to prioritize well-being, peace and sustainability over money. And there's history too. Far too much of it. If we start world peace tomorrow, is it with the current borders? There are a lot of countries either being invaded or angry that invaders took their land and homes in either the immediate, recent, or distant past. World peace would require full agreement on where those borders lie, forever. I don't think that's really possible. The world is run by people who have no interest in peace or letting everyone else thrive. We've created a system that elevates the most ruthless among us to the top and then celebrates their ruthlessness. Greed, stupidity, lack of empathy. Don't forget lust for power. Positions of authority attract individuals whose primary motivations are in direct conflict with the needs of the general population. What else can we expect from people who think of themselves first? Of course they treat others inhumanely. Edit. I keep seeing the lust for power is just another word for greed. No, it's not. We all have seen someone at work who devotes all their energy into having power over his/her fellow workers, even though a worker position would have paid them more than their position of power. Because the lust for power is even stronger in that person than their greedies. Those kind of people flock to politics like moths to flame or flies to a rotting carcass. Now all we need is an infallible scientific method of identifying such candidates and disqualifying them from running for office. A guy can dream. Browse Reddit for 5 minutes. People just like that rise to power. If we could confine that to the internet, that would be great. Because I don't think it's going away. Like how sports or video games are to war. Between two groups of people who want to make inconsistent kinds of worlds, I see no remedy but force. Oliver Wendell Holmes. The fact that as a species we don't really believe in world peace. We say that we do, but we don't. I could write a hate comment about big companies and politicians, but we all do some or the other thing in our daily lives that takes us away from world peace. Even if it's just subtle favoritism towards someone. With large corporations and politics, it just gets magnified. Discrimination and greed, both. If you say you're a pacifist or anti-war, you often get ridiculed for being naive, even. And if you say you support the soldiers but not the military, you are roundly booed. Humans. Yeah, it seems like no matter what else might change, humans are gonna human. There is a widespread tendency for people to have a lack of empathy for those we cannot personally relate to or are far removed from our own personal lives. It leads to racism, nationalism, tribalism, and tons of other unethical belief systems, eventually culminating in conflict. What is world peace? How do you enforce it? With what stick? Anyway, the answer is probably, ultimately, competition over finite resources. It isn't because we are being held back by some bad people. We are all complicit, and you should definitely worry about the people who say they are not. The human nature of tribalism. This 100%. People will come up with who is not their team to compete against and dislike even if there is no reason to. It's too hardwired into our brains. Really, we'd need aliens to unite the world where it's our world vs them for there to be any chance at this. Religion's a big one. Greed. Nationalism. Ignorance. A bunch of things. Fundamental differences in ideology, political philosophy. Tribalism. A large amount of wealth concentrated in extractive industries. And a large number of smaller problems that directly lead to conflicts. This is a great summary. Thanks. Money, greed. Maybe general lack of education. Difference of opinion. I disagree. S. Money. War just makes certain people too much money. This doesn't explain conflict at all. Humans have been warring for millennia, and the rise of modern military-industrial complexes is a very recent development. There have been plenty of wars where neither side gained from the conflict. You might be able to make the argument that the existence of oligopolized industries, like aerospace and defense, allow large firms to have an outsized influence in modern democracies. But again, the simple excuse that war makes certain people too much money is an insufficient explanation for conflict. Wars are costly endeavors, usually politically risky to initiate, and might result in somebody gaining personal wealth, but that's easy to identify in hindsight. In the era of total war, that gain was usually neither obvious or assured from the start. Only in the modern model of limited, low-intensity, forever wars can companies expect stability, shareholder profits, etc. I agree that it's a contributing cause, but it's not the only one or even the main one. Scarcity. Humans. They're fucking dumb. 0/10 do not recommend. One of my favorite movie quotes is in Men in Black. Agent K, a person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. People can't even agree on what world peace should look like. Money and greed. Assholes. What's interesting is to think about exactly how many things in life that we take for granted are because of assholes. You have to log into your account with a password. Because if you didn't have a password, an asshole would log in as you. Most of our laws are in place simply to be some form of consequence when assholes are assholes. Hell, there's an argument to be made that people weren't assholes, we wouldn't need to keep score with money and decide who gets what resources. Diversity, and I don't mean the PC term. People have different values and views, which can contradict one another. As long as people are willing to fight for what they believe in, there will be conflict. Human nature, sadly. I mean, there is war between ants as well, so I guess it's not that easy. Greed and lust for power. Profit. 34th rule of acquisition. War is good for business. People who want power. Power, money, and the egos of everyone desperate enough to seek both no matter the cost. World peace starts at home. If you're not peaceful, as possible, with everyone you meet, you're part of the problem. Just remember, peace equals rolling over and accepting mistreatment, or letting injustices slide. All that does is kick the can down the road, ensuring that when conflict does inevitably happen, it's bigger and uglier than if you just stood up for yourself what's right in the short term. The negative peace, that is the absence of tension, doesn't last. The positive peace, that is presence of justice, does. $.